Yo, what's up, guys? Nanjiroh here, and today's video is gonna be a little bit longer than usual. This is going to be the fabled what does Nanjiroh think is gonna get nerf patch, as well as talking about one of the things that people don't talk about, which is getting the most bang for your buck when it comes to your vials. So we're just gonna go straight to looking at the cards that I think will that are pretty good contenders get nerfed. Now, you probably know most of these, however if you don't, then that's fine. And let's go ahead and do this. Okay, so we're just gonna go down the list. I might not own some of these cards, so I'm just gonna go ahead and select create cards. Right, the first card is Actress Feria. So Actress Feria is really strong because it's a 2-drop and a creature is good. So it's good on 2. It's also good in later stages of the game. However, with Actress Feria, what you'll be doing with it is, or rather, how it's currently used is you go ahead and it's like step 5 on your high roll curve with neutral anything. So you go Goblin, you go Nameless 2-drop, you go Goblin Eater, then you go Alice. And then you usually have like 2 things on the board afterwards. So what you'll do is you go ahead and you'll play Feria. Then you'll maybe play either a 1-drop and another 2-drop with it. Then you'll go ahead and you'll evolve the Feria, and you'll get to double diff. On buffs. And usually, even if it's a Goblin that you're buffing twice, it's usually big enough that becomes threatening, and your opponent can't easily deal with it. So you just kind of snowball them out of control. And the only class that can easily deal with that is Haven with Themis, but you're not always going to have Themis. You're not always going to have Conflagration, and it's just really tricky to deal with. However, I say that's a contender to get nerfed. However, it is fair in a sense that it is an evolved combo piece. However, it's just really strong when it goes off and when you already get buffed by Alice. Another card is Tove. So this one comes as a shock and surprise to no one. Tove is literally the Doctor 2 in this game. He's honestly one of the best 2-drops in the game, next to that of Snow White, and I think there's like one other 2-drop that's really strong. But Tove is good because like there's very few creatures that can 1v1 Tove. There are like a few, but a lot of those aren't good enough to see in constructed play. Like for example, Shadow has a 2/1 that has Bane. You're not gonna want to play that Bane card. You don't. But yet Tove forces you to want to do that. Additionally, because Tove can bulldoze through any 2-drop you play, it gives them space to want to play Goblin Leader, and this puts you into really awkward spots where you either clear the Tove and stop taking 3 damage, or you clear the Goblin Leader and then Tove smacks you in the face for 3 more damage. It's just really troublesome to deal with. I don't know how they're gonna nerf him. I just know that he is something they want to keep an eye on. Goblin Leader is actually so ridiculous right now, because if you don't have removal spell for the Goblin Leader, if they play it on 3 going first, you have to either have removal spell that turn or you die. There's no playing out a creature to contest it, because if you play out something that has less than 3 HP, like whatever creature you play has to have over 4 HP in order to be safe. Because if you play out something to contest, then what your opponent will do is they'll play out Alice. They'll buff the Goblin Leader to a 2/3. They'll buff the Goblin that you get from the Goblin Leader to a 2/3, and then they'll just value trade into your guy, and the Goblin Leader will make another token. For each turn that Goblin Leader lives, your opponent essentially gets 1 mana. Like for an aggro deck to randomly get free mana, that's actually crazy and unheard of. So I do think it's a strong choice to get nerfed. What else? Alice. So Alice is really strong, and you could argue that's too strong. However, one thing that I think that I think will be a reason for why it gets nerfed is because it adds a lot of hidden power. What I say by hidden power is, I mean the power that was probably like unintended to an extent, because with each of the buffs that your creatures get, they become more and more resilient to AoE, and suddenly when an aggro deck is suddenly like unstoppable, then that becomes a problem. And what I mean by that is like that usually most aggro decks they usually have to play in fear of stuff like Breath of Salamander, or in fear of stuff like Themis or whatever. However, right now Themis is the only AoE in this game that can actually 100% clear an Alice buff board, especially because you already get the buffs from this. But if you get Alice plus Actrasperia, a 2/2 to multiple creatures is actually really difficult to deal with, because again, if you conclude that a 2/2 is worth 2 mana, the Alice plus Speria gives you like a billion mana for no reason. Another card, Big Knuckle Bodyguard. So Big Knuckle Bodyguard is actually really strong, and and the reason why he's strong is because he's strong going first and going second. He's a cudgel that you can use going first. That's actually insane. Yes, your opponent does take 2 damage for it. However, he also has full stats on Evolve. That's actually gross, because because a 4/5 would have been manageable to deal with. However, as a 5/6, which he can usually get to be a 5/6 pretty easily, it's suddenly a lot more difficult to deal with him. And I do think that he's going to get nerfed just because he's a really strong turn 4 play that like segues you into turn 5 Baphomet. I'm not going to pull it up, but I do think obviously that Baphomet is also a strong contender to get nerfed. What else? March Hare's Tea Time. I do actually think March Hare's Tea Time is also another strong contender to get nerfed, and I do think if they're going to nerf it, they'll probably just make the cooldown of 5, at least a 5 mana cooldown. The reason why is because right now, what happens to you versus Haven is they'll play March Hare Tea Time on 5. The March Hare Tea Time, it gives you a Tin Soldier. If you don't actually know what Tin Soldier does, it's a 4/5 that gets to be a 5/6, and it deals 3 damage to your enemy. Now, it can go face, it can trade, it can do anything it wants. And as a 5/6, the Tin Soldier is actually really difficult to deal with, and it usually by itself goes 1 for 3. But then on turn 6, you play out the Garuda. When you play out the Garuda, you reduce the cost of Tea Time. Sorry, you reduce the countdown of Tea Time to 0, so you get another Tin Soldier. You evolve the second Tin Soldier, and then you get another +3. Like, so from 2 cards, you got a total of a +6. That's actually disgusting. On top of that, if you, it's a +6. That's a feels bad man either way, because if your opponent didn't have creatures on the board, they get to toss 9 damage to their face. That's actually gross. Like, and they also have have a really nice board. So it just gives you like a massive tempo swing that lets you do whatever you want to do after that. And so now we're seeing stuff like Garuda and like Tea Time like all over the place right now. Phantom Cat. Alright, so for Phantom Cat, alright, so you've probably never seen it, but there's actually this card in Dragon, Shenlong. It's a 7 mana 5/6. It draws you 2 cards. Now Shenlong has almost never seen the light of day, just because there's only a few people who have tried it, including myself. However, it's simply not that good. Partially because Dragon as a deck does not support it that well. However, here we have Phantom Cat. So for 1 less mana and 1 less HP, you get to draw 2 cards, and then if you see neutrals, you get to randomly deal face damage to your opponent on top of being full statted on Evo. So right now you see aggro cat, which basically it plays a neutral package. It gets in a lot of chip damage and whatever. And then they also play Phantom Cat to reload. And then when they play Phantom Cat to reload, you're automatically taking 4 damage from the Phantom Cat. Well, I say 4 damage, but well, it usually ends up being 4 damage. But you're taking anywhere from 0 to 4 damage from the Phantom Cat before the Phantom Cat has even attacked you. And it just becomes a problem because what you can do is you can just like chain Phantom Cats and then just like, well, your opponent dies and there's not much that they can do about it. So it's a really strong card. I don't know for sure if it will get nerfed, but it does feel like one of those cards that you can think about. They can think about when you think about cards that might get nerfed. Emeralda is on this list slightly, but I don't think she'll get nerfed now because like she's actually like seen declining play, and I do think that she's one of those cards that's like it's a really strong hedge card, and I don't think it should get nerfed, but if it does get nerfed, well, there you go. It'll be a card to keep an eye on, and just something to keep starred so you don't actually like disenchant it. Okay, and then the last card, at least from this set, is Spawn of the Abyss. So Spawn of the Abyss, I don't really need to talk about why this card is probably gonna get nerfed, because you've already seen it in all of your games, and it's just really annoying for people to deal with. I don't really care about the card one way or the other. If it gets nerfed, cool. If it does get nerfed, whatever. I don't care. However, I do think that for overall game health, it will probably get nerfed because because it's one of those cards that like it's a game limiter, right? So there are a lot of games where you play to the board the entire time, but you maybe take a little bit of chip damage here and there, and then your opponent gets buff, and then your opponent gets like Baphomet on one of your few weak turns, and then they play Spawn, and then they evolve the Spawn, and they hit you in the face, and then it's like, oh, well, I took 16 damage from this one card on like turn 7. Fun game. And and it's one of those cards that like it's been complained about a lot, and it's just one of those like Blood has such a strong early game right now that like it's not that hard to take a tempo loss from playing the Baphomet in order to play the Spawn, just because like your turns 1 to 4 are just so strong that before that like it doesn't matter, that there's almost no way that your opponent can somehow muster up the damage to be able to kill you unless they can somehow like go hard on that one turn. Like they have to go hard right after you play the Baphomet in order to have a chance. But not every deck can just do that at the drop of a hat. Additionally, the other reason why I did mention a lot of blood cards is because right now blood I think sees play is seen on like 41% of the ladder, some gross number like that right now. And part of that is partially because right now this is an effective reward season, and so naturally people are going to be playing whatever the best deck is. Right now the best deck is arguably blood. But anyway, so that's enough of what I think will get nerfed. Now we're going to talk about I guess there's also Scarlet Sabrura. However, I don't think she'll get nerfed. I think she's a really strong card, but I don't think she's like overwhelmingly strong. I just think she's like a really good card. All right, so now we're gonna now on to the second part of the video, making the most out of your collection. So there are a few different ways to do this. It's really important at the start of each and every new set, sorry. Okay, so a little bit of intro. So, as you all know, I've played it in many physical card games, and one of the things that I as well as many other people who have also played in physical card games will tell you that they enjoyed the most is actually making a profit off of your collection. What that means is, being able to resell a card for a higher value than whatever it was they used to get it. If you got it for free, cool. They get to get a resell off of this. And And it's actually really important because like because the more profits you make, the more and more things they can play, you can buy and whatever, and it's just really nice. Now, how this equates to Shadowverse? Well, this is about your collection. What I personally do is at the start of a set, I restrict myself to exactly one. I restrict myself to exactly one class. I go ahead and I know full well that I'm going to play this class. I'm going to play the shit out of this class, and so as a result, I can craft whatever I want to for this class. However, for the other 6 classes, I will not craft anything whatsoever for the first like 2 weeks. The reason why I want to wait a week to 2 weeks is because there's going to be a lot of red herrings in the deck. A lot of red herrings in the game. A good example of this is where is it? Stuff like Abomination Awakened. So when Abomination Awakened first got revealed or whatever, people went batshit insane about this card because it's a 3-mana 6/6. Like it's a 3-mana 6/6 that your opponent has to clear, because if they don't clear it, you somehow put 9 cards in your hand. Then like it gets to evolve and it gets to wipe your board. It gets to wipe your opponent's board and it gets to hit them in the face. However, it's a red herring because it turns out keeping 9 cards in your hand is playing this card and then going up to 9 cards, and it has to be exactly 9 in order to get the effect, is actually a lot harder than people imagined. Another one is Red Rage Worm. Alright, so when Red Rage Worm got revealed, I knew it was trash. However, all of my friends and even people that I didn't know were like, Red Rage Worm is going to be so fucking good. You're just going to get to evolve it, hit someone in the face, and then they're going to lose. Well, it's not that simple. Because with Red Rage Worm, he is still a 0/5. A 0/5 is somewhat easy to kill. Granted, Rahab is usually not that easy to kill, and he's a 2/5 that usually comes out at around the same time. However, a 0/5 is different because a 0/5 cannot fight back. But that was a red herring, just because, like, again, the deck is terrible. It doesn't do anything. Another red herring card is... well, there's Superior Driver, because Superior Driver had his own OTK, and then people were hypey about that, but like the OTK actually didn't like pan out to be anything whatsoever, as well as Bandersnatch. Okay, yeah, and it's mainly just those. But yeah, so as a result, I essentially go on what is the buying freeze, and I just go ahead and wait and just like feel out the meta, so see what's actually working, and see what else. It's just, you know, it's good, but it's also like vastly overhyped. Another thing that I do to go ahead and maximize in order to maximize the vials, because if you see now, I think I have a lot of vials. Yeah, I actually had way more than this. I actually had about close to 100,000 or so before this expansion. However, I did not get that many. I did not get that many get packs, and I had to craft quite a few legendaries. But the other thing I do is when we get a nerf announcement, I also go ahead and I don't vial anything whatsoever, just because Cygames has already shown that, well, they nerf things differently than what we might expect. I know for a fact that during the February nerfs for ROB, no one called out the piercing rune nerf. No one expected it. Everyone was 100%. It's going to be Daria. It's going to be Levi. Those two cards are going to get nerfed. Nope, neither one of them were touched. Just piercing rune. And as a result, because of this, if you just hold on to everything, then like, oh, well, whenever anything gets nerfed, well, you most likely already have multiple copies of the card. Additionally, when a nerf happens, I personally suggest, especially now for this particular nerf cycle, in which they're going to be nerfing cards very, very early as opposed to very, very late, I would just completely just get rid of all the copies of the card whatsoever, especially if it's not a legendary and if the copies aren't animated, just because you'll be opening a lot of Tempest of the God packs for at least another like 2 to 3 weeks before you start saving for the next expansion. and as a result, you still have a really good chance to pull more copies of these cards. Now the extra copies that you pull, you can go ahead and keep those, or you can keep filing them if you want, if you don't actually play the deck. But either way, you come out at a profit, because if you weren't playing the deck at all, then when you get rid of the cards, then you've essentially made money. If you were playing it and you're only playing it to, you know, maybe get like Grandmasters with it, and you want to play something else, again, this works for you because you've already achieved your intended goal. And then lastly, even if you were playing the deck and you know you still want to keep playing the deck, that's still fine, because you're going to most likely pull additional copies of the card anyway. Just because you open up about 1.5 packs per day, maybe 2 packs, and maybe even 3 depending on what happens. Additionally, we're most likely getting bonus packs before the end of this expansion. So you most likely, if you just decide that you're just going to open up packs the entirety of the next like month and a half, then you're going to be opening up about 60, maybe 70 packs, provided you don't spend like any money in the game. If you do spend money in the game, then you can virtually open up probably 200, maybe potentially 100 to maybe 200 packs, and that's just a lot of gold to be made. But yeah, so again, just to recap, learn the discipline to go ahead and put yourself on a buying freeze. Learn to also not just automatically hit that liquefy all button, and go ahead and selectively liquefy. Additionally, go ahead and make sure to keep an ear to the ground for one, the nerf announcement patch, and also to see what other people think are going to get nerfed. So that way you can go ahead and you can like star all those cards. Additionally, when you are looking for vials, you usually want to go from older sets, just because it's very unlikely that side games will nerf things from older sets. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. I know this video was kind of long, but I did actually want to get this out there just because I do know that like a lot of different people asked me for Ask Nanjiroh what I thought was going to get nerfed, and I knew that was going to be its own like separate rabbit hole that I was going to have to go down. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Leave a like if you did, and thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.